Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, and with me, as always, is June Liu. How you doing, June?
Good.
So today we are talking about the La Aurora 1987 Connecticut Robusto. The cigar is 5 inches by 50 ring gauge, comes out of the La Aurora factory in Dominican Republic. The wrapper's Connecticut shade, the binder is from the Dominican Republic, and the filler is Dominican Republic and Nicaragua. It's blended by Manuel Enoa, and the price point is $5.50. And the cigar was released in April of 2016. So with all that out of the way, June, what was your pre-light experience like?
Pre-light overall was good. In terms of the look of the cigar, I thought the wrapper, kind of a regular looking Connecticut shade wrapper, no frills, no thrills, kind of a thing. A little bit dull, minor traces of oil content. Major veins, pretty well pressed, seems tight, visible. Bunch of roll felt pretty good. Uniform give throughout without a lot of soft spots. A bit of a more than normal spongy give to it, but nothing really out of the ordinary. Head finish off with a thick double cap. Within the nosing experience, when I smell the wrapper, I got mainly hay and cedar. Smell of that foot, I got very like a welcoming, inviting black pepper spice and mixed nuts. Cold draw was exactly like that wrapper smell, giving me that same cedar and hay notes. So overall, especially within like a $5 or so cigar, it matched the price within the look.
Yeah, wrapper was very light golden brown, had some slightly darker marbling near the head. There was a couple visible veins, but the seams, required a little bit of focus to be able to see where they were at. So it was very well blended and smooth. Heads finished off with a well-applied triple cap. Two bands, primary being the standard La Aurora band. Secondary band is the strip band that denotes it as the Connecticut line. Aroma from the wrapper was like a very sweet mix of hay and tobacco, with a little bit of leather in the background. And the foot gave a combination of sweet tobacco and leather. And the pre-light draw was like a very creamy leather with a slight spice to it. So getting into flavor, what was your experience like?
Starting from the first third, very traditional type of familiar and traditional type of a Connecticut shade cigar offering, driven around hay, cedar, roasted nuttiness, and a wood bitterness coming through. I think it's important to note that within the two samples that I smoked within this cigar, both had a really loose draw. So, which meant, yeah, I had to really slow down my draws and the intensity of the draws, because if I drew on it too hard, that bitterness would increase quite a bit, and that bitterness really spiked. But when I took like little baby pulls, I felt like I was tasting what the cigar was trying to offer me. Within the retro, that's kind of where spice was introduced. So I started getting some black pepper out of that, and deeper notes of the roasted nuttiness. Finish medium in length, with the taper wood bitterness and mixed nuts. Strength and body within the entire cigar, medium. Moving on to the second third, I thought, this is kind of like where the best part of the cigar was, where I felt like the cigar became more nuttier and creamier, and especially highlighted that roasted creamy mixed nut going on. So really tasty. Profile still has that same hay and cedar notes, but that wood bitterness takes a drop back. Retrohaling still gave me that same black pepper and the roasted nuttiness. Finish also the same with tapered wood bitterness and mixed nuts. And moving on to the last third, it's pretty much like the second third. I mean, it's still dominantly a very creamy, nutty profile with good, cedar and hay backing. Towards the middle of that last third, the cigar started getting some earthiness in it, like this, like a refined, like a dry, dirty, like a dry dirt sort of a going on. Retro still full of that deeper roasted nuttiness and that welcoming black pepper finish, still medium in length, giving me mixed nuts and slight wood bitterness. So all in all, like I said in the beginning of this flavor profile, very traditional kind of a performance of a shade.
Yeah, the cigar began for me with like a slight dry and also slightly spicy cedar to it. A quarter inch in, a little bit of cream joined in the profile, which ended the dryness there. At an inch in, the creamy and spicy cedar was continuing on. Retrohale was like a slightly toasty general wood note. And as the third was coming to a close, that cedar transitioned to a general wood note and still carried a little bit of cream and spice to it. But even with that cream present, it still became a little bit slightly drying again. But the strength in that first third was slightly below medium. In the second third, the general wood note and the cream were continuing on while the spice kind of gone away. There was also a little bit of sweetness present on the very beginning of the draws. At a half inch in, the sweetness had gone away. Profile was just like a slightly creamy wood note. At an inch in, profile was a bit dry again, and the retrohale just carried a kind of a wood note to it. And as the second third came to a close, the slight bitterness joined the wood, and the cream disappeared, and the strength was just kind of right at medium. In the final third, bitterness kind of goes away as the general wood note was continuing on, and a little slight mintiness joined the profile. At a quarter inch in, mintiness transitioned back to bitterness, and a half inch in, a little bit of cream joined with the wood and pushed the bitterness out. And then at an inch in, the creamy wood was really smooth there at that point. Retrohale carried a little bit of a warmth to it, along with a creamy wood note. And the cigar finished out with that same smooth, creamy wood note, and strength was right at the medium mark. So for performance-wise for burn and draw, what was your experience like?
In terms of the burn, I rated it good. The only letdown rather was there was a couple of a minor touch-up that I had to do within the first third. But other than that, I mean, the cigar burned pretty well. Sturdy ash, relatively even burn. Smoked both samples in like a little over an hour, so kind of as expected a performance on the burn aspect. The draw, on the other hand, was poor. Kind of what I talked about earlier, in having that really loose draw, having to control the pulse so much, it affected the flavors quite a bit, especially within that first third where it quickly made the cigar overwhelmingly bitter. But like I said, when you take really slow, I mean, like it's almost like you have to like pretend like you're speaking super slow, like that kind of a thing. The
Right.
cigar actually had good flavors.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, the burn was just slightly wavy, but it always kept up with itself. And ash held on in an inch and a half increments, so I rated it very good. And same for the draw. It was just a slight bit looser than I prefer, but I didn't feel like it caused any issues with the smoking experience. So I must have got the two good ones, and you got the two bad ones, because yeah, I just didn't have the same issue on my side. So overall, what were your thoughts?
You know, I don't think I've ever, or actually, it's been a very long time since I rated down a cigar due to construction. In this case, the draw, and that was just, I mean, that killed it. Just yeah, like I got what I was supposed to get out of it overall, but I shouldn't have to baby the draw every single puff within smoking a cigar for an hour or so, right?
Right.
So that was a really letdown. But aside from that, I mean, if you're a fan of like more of the traditional Connecticut shade notes and you like easygoing cigars, nothing super strong, have it with a cup of Joe in the morning or on a really hot summer day, try something like this, which is when I smoked it. I think it'll fit the profile.
Yeah, I mean, I would label this as a typical Connecticut offering. I mean, there's nothing fancy and nothing bad about it. Bitterness did pop up from time to time, but the profile kind of got back on track pretty quickly. Gave a primarily woody profile, a little bit of cream at times. Performance was very good for the samples I had. So for me, there was nothing to take my attention away from the flavor. You had a different experience, so it was kind of chalk that up to some inconsistency in the cigars themselves.
Yeah.
But I think if people like the typical Connecticut shade profile, that this kind of just fits right in that. But the thing about this cigar is that the price point is really attractive. So if you just like the typical Connecticut flavors and you don't want to spend $8-9, this is something to check out just because of the budget benefit. But for me, I look for a bit more flavor, so I'm not sure I would seek this one out. I'd probably smoke it, if someone handed it to me, but I'm probably not going to go searching it out. So let's get into the scores. I gave it a 5.67. You gave it a 5.40. How do you think that matched up with your experience?
It matches well, but the killer of this, of course, was a draw. So it's so purely sticking on flavors without having a crappy draw. That 5, a little better than average kind of a thing going on, makes sense.
Yeah, I would say the same. I rated the flavor average across the board. It got bumped up a little bit because I had really good construction for burn and draw. But to me, I just thought flavor-wise it was average, and overall it was average. I mean, like you said at the beginning, no frills, no thrills. It was just kind of the typical Connecticut shade that you were getting. So, I mean, I would say, it's worth a try. See if you like it. I mean, it doesn't really hurt your wallet to give it a shot. So I'd say give it a shot. I mean, and this is the third offering in the kind of the La Aurora, I want to say I don't know, time capsule series is what they're calling this one, where they have the Corojo, the Cameroon, and this Connecticut.
Yeah.
This is the one I like the least,
Mm.
but the other ones were very good for the price. So I guess 2 out of 3 is not bad when you think about it. Any other final thoughts from you?
Just one more thing, now that we've spoken the 3 different ones, right? Like the Cameroon, Corojo, and this Connecticut one, I gotta give it up to like La Aurora to like create such a well-priced cigar that for the most part within the 3 hit really good flavors.
Right.
I think that's great. And especially now that we're back from this year's IPCPR, they had that I think it's called like the limited edition one that they have out. That's going to be
right.
like, 20 out of $30. Like, that's awesome, man. Like, and I'm really interested to see what something of that caliber, that price point, can taste like, because I know within their within their price sensitive, friendly cigars, it's pretty darn good. So I'm expecting some pretty awesome things out of that one.
Yep, exactly. Well, if you're just catching this video on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us, but also check out the full written review on the website, developingpalates.com. Be sure to follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google+. And you can catch all of our review recaps on podcasts, so iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.